Happy Friday, guys. Good morning. Chapter 9. We trudged home, discouraged, dejected, in the dumps. The commando team of Moose Mackenzie and Duck Wilson had definitely fallen on hard times. Pete stopped to kick a tree. Rats, he said for the 50th time. How could we be so stupid? Because we're numbskulls, I explained glumly. We're nitwits. We're a couple of North American nitwitted numbskulls. We had our flashlights on and we were following an unfamiliar trail. We would have gone back the same way we came, but we made such a hasty exit from the girls' camp that we missed our turnoff. We weren't worried, though, because the trail we were on seemed to be headed for the big hill in the middle of the island. Earlier that day, just before dark, we had taken a compass reading on the hill from a point near Hidden Valley, figuring that it was probably the highest point on the island and would make a good landmark. Now all we had to do was get to the top of the hill, use the opposite reading, and we should come out close to home. Already the trail was beginning to climb. Behind me, Pete gave a snort of disbelief. Yeah, but how could we be so stupid? He blurted. I wiped some of the mud off my forehead. You got me, I said grimly. They just outsmarted us, that's all. They saw through us right from the start. I shook my head and then I added meaningfully, but next time. Yeah, said Pete, still disgusted, but with a little ray of hope in his voice. Next time we won't be so stupid. Turned out that the trail did lead to the hilltop, or at least to the jumble of large boulders that covered the summit. Before heading down to the west, Pete and I decided to climb to the top of the highest rock for a look around. A minute later, we were surveying the whole of Turtle Island. Since there was no moon and it was a dark night, the island itself was inky black, but it was silhouetted clearly against the dark gray of the lake. Overhead, a couple of bats swooped after insects. The sky was full of hundreds of stars. Just out of habit, I located the North Star and some of the brightest summer stars, Vega, Deneb, and Altair. We looked southeast in the direction of the girls' camp. No lights, which was logical since their campsite was probably hidden by trees, and besides they were probably sound asleep by now with big happy grins on their faces, merrily chuckling away. The creeps. I checked out the north. Most of the island lay in that direction, stretching out for 3/4 of a mile or more before coming to a point. For us, it was all unexplored territory. Suddenly, I saw something weird. In the distance, against the blackness of the island, almost at the northern tip, an eerie orange light was moving. Pete, look! For 4 or 5 seconds, the light moved to the left, traveling fast, much faster than a person could run. Then it paused, and it moved quickly back to the right. It looked like it might be flying, but the pattern didn't make sense. It moved to the left again, then to the right, slowing down slightly, cutting its distance each time, almost as if it were zeroing in on one particular spot. Left, right. Then suddenly, it moved in a perpendicular direction for a short distance as if it were dropping to the ground, and it was gone. It disappeared completely. We stood there staring tensely into the darkness, waiting for the light to reappear, but it didn't. Finally, Pete spoke. Spooky. What do you think it was, Scott? I don't know, I said, but one thing's for sure. There's someone else on the island. Or something else. Yeah, I said. I tried to think of a logical explanation, but couldn't come up with one. I say we hike over there first thing in the morning and find out what's going on. We started climbing down the boulders, heading for home. It's probably more girls, Pete said gloomily. Yeah, they're probably flying them in by helicopter now. Pretty soon the island will be full of them. By the time we arrived back at Hidden Valley, we were pretty worn out. It had been a long day, a long, hard day. We canoed across a lot of water. We'd fallen in a lot of water. We hiked across a lot of land. We'd fallen in a lot of mud. We needed sleep, and lots of it. Right away, Pete tripped over one of the tulips on the plastic sidewalk in front of our gingerbread tent. Rotten tulips, he grumped. I wish I had a lawnmower. I'd mow those tulips. We would have slept out under the stars, but we thought there was a good chance it would rain again before morning. So we got out of our muddy clothes, took a quick dip in the lake to clean off, spread out our sleeping bags inside the tent, and climbed into them. I took a few minutes to wipe the mud off my camera and see if it still worked. I looked through the viewfinder, took a flash picture of the witch on the wall, and advanced the film. Everything seemed okay. We'll get the girls tomorrow, I told Pete. We'll work out a plan, something good. Better be better than Last plan, said Pete. You could grind up our last plan and use it as chicken feed. Don't worry, they're smarter than we thought, but they can be beaten. This time we'll use our wits. We'll outthink them. Just as long as we cream them, said Pete. Trust me, I said. I put my camera aside and turned off my flashlight. As I lay there, I found myself thinking about Jill. I was sure she was the one who had seen through us. I remember the way she looked at me with those probing blue eyes of hers when I had told her how Pete had been attacked by the wolverine. Yeah, it was her all right. It had to be. I was just drifting off to sleep when I felt Pete jabbing me. What's that? He said. What's what? Up there, on the ceiling. I looked up. Glowing dimly on the ceiling of the tent were some tiny, tiny letters. They must have been painted with a phosphorescent paint. I couldn't quite make them out, so I sat up and I squinted at them. Slowly, I read them out loud. Upsy daisy in the morning, downsy snoozy in the night. That's really sickening, said Pete with disgust. Think I'm gonna upsy daisy my dinner. I fluffed up my jacket I was using as a pillow and I flopped back down on it. Take it easy, Pete, I said soothingly. Downsy snoozy, downsy snoozy. That's chapter 9.